Every man eventually reaches a point where he looks back at a relationship with new eyes and feels an unsettling truth rise within him. He realizes that what he thought was love was never actually love. He wasn't valued for who he was. He was drained for what he gave. The affection seemed real in the moment, the attention felt genuine, the intimacy looked deep enough to believe in. But once the curtain came down, the reality revealed itself with brutal clarity. It had been a performance all along. What he thought was loyalty was an act of convenience. What he mistook for devotion was a strategy, and what he believed was care was nothing more than a way to keep him giving. Men are taught to believe that love is built on truth, that the emotions shown by a woman are authentic. But most men fail to realize that many women live not in raw truth but in performance. From an early age, they are conditioned to shape themselves into whatever role secures the most attention, resources, and validation. They become adaptable actors, shifting their tone, their behavior, even their supposed values depending on what the moment demands. In the beginning, she is sweet, tender, nurturing, reflecting back to you everything you want to see. If you value kindness, she plays the kindest role you've ever experienced. If you admire ambition, she suddenly speaks of her big dreams and goals. If you love adventure, she presents herself as spontaneous and wild. But these are not her truths. These are costumes worn to capture you. The tragedy is that men believe it. We assume what we see is real because we ourselves are straightforward. When we express loyalty, we mean it. When we show affection, we feel it. When we say forever, we intend it. And so we naturally project that same sincerity onto her. But what goes unnoticed is that she is not always operating from sincerity. She is often performing, adjusting her mask to extract the most energy from the situation. She knows how to cry to gain sympathy, how to smile to lower your defenses, how to withdraw just enough to make you chase. Each move is a calculated step in her performance, and because you take it at face value, you keep giving more. This is why men so often feel exhausted in relationships, even when everything seems fine on the surface. The endless emotional swings, the sudden highs and lows, the constant need for reassurance, all of it drains your energy. You believe you are investing in love, but in truth, you are fueling her performance. And the more you give, the deeper you sink into the illusion. You confuse her act with authenticity because you want to believe it's real. But the day always comes when the mask slips, and you see the cracks in the character she has played. What once looked like loyalty now feels like betrayal. What once looked like devotion now feels like manipulation. And in that moment, the chilling truth hits. She was never truly loyal to you. She was loyal only to the role she played, and when the role no longer served her, it ended. This realization is painful, even devastating, because it forces a man to confront the fact that much of what he thought was love was nothing more than theater. But it is also the first step toward clarity. Once you see the performance for what it is, you can never unsee it again. You begin to recognize how often the affection you received was conditional, how often the intimacy was used to keep you hooked, and how often the loyalty you believed in was tied only to convenience. And in that moment, you understand that what you experienced wasn't love. It was an illusion carefully crafted to keep you giving until you had nothing left to give. Think about the heaviness that settles over you after certain encounters with a woman. The strange sense of exhaustion that doesn't make sense on the surface. You weren't doing anything physically demanding, yet you walk away feeling drained. This is the essence of the energy vampire. Her strength is not in what she builds, but in what she takes. She thrives not by offering stability, but by creating chaos, because chaos keeps you unbalanced, and when you're unbalanced, you give. The cycle is simple, but powerful. She destabilizes you. You chase her stability, and in chasing, you pour out your energy. By the time you notice, you're already weaker than when you began. Men often crave peace. We want consistency, a steady rhythm in life where effort leads to results, loyalty leads to trust, and love leads to growth. But many women thrive on the opposite. Where men want calm, they want volatility. Where men want order, They bring unpredictability. And it is in that unpredictability that they gain control. When you're calm, you see clearly. When you're stable, you make rational choices. But when she pulls you into a storm, clarity disappears, and you end up reacting to her instead of acting for yourself. The more you react, the more she feeds. At the beginning, her tactics are subtle. She mirrors your desires and convinces you that you've finally found someone who truly understands you. If you value respect, she showers you with admiration. If you value peace, she presents herself as gentle and nurturing. If you value passion, she embodies intensity and fire. This mirroring is what hooks you, because you feel as though she is your reflection in human form. But the truth is, she is studying you, learning what strings to pull, what role to play, what mask to wear. And as soon as she has secured your devotion, the act begins to shift. What was once respect slowly morphs into criticism. What was once peace turns into drama. What was once admiration becomes contempt. At first, you don't see it clearly because you are still living off the memory of the role she played in the beginning. You believe the kind, sweet, affectionate version of her will come back if you just try harder, if you just love her better, if you just give more. And so, you give. You sacrifice your energy, your focus, your peace, chasing the illusion of the woman who never truly existed. This is the trap of the energy vampire. She keeps you chasing a ghost. A version of her that was never real, but you're too invested to walk away. The chaos she creates is not random. It is deliberate. One day she showers you with affection, making you feel like the center of her world. The next day she withdraws completely, leaving you confused and desperate to win her warmth back. This push-pull dynamic is her weapon. The warmth hooks you, the withdrawal destabilizes you, and the cycle keeps you bleeding energy. Men mistake this roller coaster for passion, believing the highs and lows prove depth and intensity. But in truth, it is not passion, it is control. Real passion builds connection. Real intimacy creates peace. But the chaos of an energy vampire does the opposite. It keeps you addicted, anxious, and always pouring into her performance. And the more you pour, the emptier you become. You notice your focus slipping from your goals, your energy dwindling day by day, your peace eroding until you barely recognize yourself. You think you're building love, but in reality, you're fueling her survival. She is not giving back. She is extracting, always hungrier, always needing more. And the deeper you sink into this cycle, the harder it becomes to see the truth that she was never giving you love in the first place. She was feeding on your strength, and the longer you let it continue, the weaker you become. Men naturally assume that emotions are raw, genuine signals of truth. If someone cries, we believe they must be hurting. If they smile, we take it as a sign of happiness. If they say forever, we believe they mean it with the same permanence that we would. But this is where men are most vulnerable, because what feels sincere to us may simply be another mask, another act designed to pull a response. Many women have learned that emotions are not just feelings, they are tools. A tear can soften you, a smile can disarm you, silence can provoke you, and seduction can bend you. None of these things guarantee authenticity, yet men rarely stop to question them because to us, emotions equal truth. To her, emotions equal leverage. This is why so many men remain trapped in relationships that are slowly breaking them down. They confuse manipulation with sincerity. When she cries after starting an argument, he believes he hurt her. When in reality, the tears are there to reset the dynamic and regain control. When she withdraws affection, he thinks he failed her, but her withdrawal is calculated to make him chase. When she suddenly becomes warm and affectionate after days of distance, he believes she still loves him deeply, when in truth, it is simply part of the cycle that keeps him addicted. The inconsistency is not accidental. It is the engine of her power. The strategy is simple, yet devastatingly effective. She gives you passion, fire, and tenderness long enough for you to feel hooked. Then she withdraws it, leaving you in confusion, panic, and longing. The confusion destabilizes you, and you begin to question yourself rather than her. You wonder what you did wrong, what you need to fix, what more you should give. Every ounce of energy you expend trying to return to the warmth she once showed becomes fuel for her performance. And each time she returns to you with affection, you feel relief, as if you finally regained her love. Not realizing that this pattern was orchestrated to keep you dependent. This is why men often confuse chaos with passion. We tell ourselves that the highs and lows must mean depth, that her intense emotions prove how much she cares. But chaos is not proof of love. It is proof of control. Passion builds stability and strengthens intimacy, while chaos weakens it. Yet because the performance feels so convincing in the moment, we keep buying into it, even when her actions and words contradict each other. The man ends up locked in a cycle where every push makes him pull harder. Every withdrawal makes him chase further. Every tear makes him surrender more of his strength. What makes this manipulation even more powerful is how sincere it looks. In each individual moment, her emotions feel real. The tears look genuine, the affection feels heartfelt, the anger seems spontaneous. And because men are rational, we assume sincerity in the moment must equal sincerity overall. But if you step back and look at the entire pattern instead of each scene, the illusion falls apart. You realize that it has never been consistent, only convincing. You begin to see the theater for what it is, a string of performances, each one designed to keep you entangled, giving and drained. And until you recognize the stage beneath the act, you will remain the audience, mistaking performance for love. The greatest danger of her performance is not just what happens behind closed doors, but how convincing it looks to the outside world. To your family, your friends, even to yourself at times, she can appear to be the most loyal and loving partner. She knows when to lean on your arm in public, when to flash a tender smile, when to cry softly enough to make others admire her vulnerability. These moments are not evidence of love. They are carefully timed displays meant to protect her image and keep you compliant. And because everyone else sees only the performance, you begin to doubt your own judgment. You ask yourself how she could possibly be faking if she seems so genuine in front of others. But what you don't realize is that this duality, public devotion and private withdrawals, not an accident. It is her most effective trap. In private, the warmth fades quickly. The tenderness that once felt endless becomes rare. In its place come demands, criticisms, and unpredictable coldness. The woman who once admired everything you did now finds fault in the smallest details. The one who once looked at you with admiration now looks at you with disdain. You tell yourself it's just stress, just a bad mood, just a phase. You hold on to the memory of the woman who first appeared, hoping she will return if you just try harder. What you don't yet see is that the woman you miss never truly existed. She was a character, a role she played. That act ended the moment it no longer served her. When the illusion starts to crack, most men make the mistake of fighting harder. They give more affection, more time, more validation, desperate to reignite the spark that once burned so brightly. But the more you give, the more you bleed. And instead of bringing her closer, your effort only fuels the act further. Because the performance thrives on your energy, and every ounce of it you pour in extends the show. The irony is that your devotion does not heal the relationship. It keeps the manipulation alive. The collapse begins when you finally stop feeding it. When you stop explaining yourself, when you detach from the constant games, when you go silent instead of reacting, something powerful happens. The act loses its fuel. Without your attention, without your validation, without your emotional energy, her performance begins to crumble. The tears no longer work. The anger no longer shakes you. The sweetness no longer hooks you. And when the act fails, the mask begins to slip. She may reveal her emptiness in desperation, or she may run to find another man to feed on. Either way, you win, because for the first time, you see that the power was never hers, was always yours. This realization is the turning point. It's the moment you stop being the audience and step off the stage. You no longer confuse performance with love. You no longer chase illusions. You recognize that what drained you for so long wasn't love at all, but an act, a calculated theater designed to keep you weak. And once you see it clearly, you can never unsee it again. The illusion loses its hold. The actress loses her control. The man who once gave everything begins to reclaim himself, piece by piece. Freedom does not come in a sudden burst. It arrives slowly, like light breaking through a heavy fog. At first, you barely notice the shift. You feel a little less drained after conversations, a little more focused on your own goals, a little less desperate to win back her affection. What you are really experiencing is the beginning of detachment, the quiet reclaiming of the energy you had been giving away for so long. This is the stage where many men falter because the performance does not end easily. When she senses that you are pulling away, she intensifies her act. The tears return with greater force. The sweetness feels more intoxicating. The promises sound more convincing. She does this not because she loves you, but because she fears losing her source of strength. The moment you stop feeding the illusion, it begins to die. And she will do everything in her power to revive it. The challenge is to see beyond the surface. You must recognize that her sudden warmth is not the return of love, but a desperate attempt to rehook you. It is the same cycle, only louder and sharper now. This is where you need discipline more than ever. The part of you that still craves the version of her you once believed in will be tempted to fall back into the old pattern. But if you give in, you start the cycle all over again, and the drain on your soul only deepens. Freedom requires endurance, the strength to stand firm when the performance is at its peak, when the illusion looks most convincing. As you resist, something remarkable happens. Your vision clears. You begin to see patterns you once ignored. You notice how every moment of sweetness is followed by a withdrawal, how every fight is designed to destabilize you, how every tear comes exactly when you start to pull away. What once confused you now looks obvious. It feels as though you are watching a script you have already read, and because you know the ending, the act loses its power. Clarity is the enemy of manipulation, and the clearer you see, the less grip she has on you. With clarity comes strength. You rediscover the parts of yourself that were buried under her chaos. The goals you once abandoned resurface. The confidence you thought you lost begins to grow, and the peace you had forgotten returns piece by piece. For the first time in a long time, you start living for yourself instead of performing for her. And it is in this space of freedom that you realize the greatest truth of all. Love does not demand your exhaustion. Peace does not require your sacrifice, and connection does not thrive on chaos. Real love nourishes. It does not drain. Real intimacy strengthens. It does not weaken. When you finally step out of the performance, you understand that the greatest power you hold is not in convincing her to change, but in refusing to play the role she assigned you. You no longer need to fight, chase, or explain. You simply walk away from the stage, leaving the actress with no audience, no fuel, no control. And in that quiet act of detachment, you reclaim everything you thought you had lost: your strength, your clarity, your freedom. This is the victory no performance can survive.